Sign up to do the Kokoda Track. The most important part of it is to make sure that you're prepared, making sure that you got the correct information, because with the correct information you also get the correct exercise program as part of it as well. The Kokoda Track is a unique environment in so many different ways. It's going to challenge you on so many different levels, physically, mentally and emotionally. No other way of saying it. I've been across the track so many times now, and over the years I've seen so many people go up there, and some have prepared perfectly, but ultimately there's always a few that don't. They don't take it serious, and there's a reason for that, because they look at other people who have succeeded on the track, who've walked the track, and they may be overweight. There might be a reason, and they look at them and they say, well, if they can do it, I can do it. But what they don't see is that at the end of the track they end up in all sorts of different issues. So for you to be prepared to do the track, you've got to be training, you've got to exercise it, because there's mountains up there that you've never seen before in your life. And the other thing too is that by you saying that you're going to do the Kokoda Track, you're actually putting your hand up to say, I'm going to follow in the footsteps of those who've gone before. The type of training, so when we look at training, we look at, okay, what are the energy sources here that we use? What are the energy systems that we've got to train? And one of the most important pieces of research that we have was a study that was carried out a few years ago, about 12 years ago, with a team from South Australia, University of South Australia. And what they found was that the amount of energy that you use on a typical day in the Kokoda Track is equivalent to doing the Tour de France. So that's the kind of energy expenditure that you will use on the Kokoda Track. Now in the first 1, 2, 3 days of the Kokoda Track, your level of expenditure is greater than say 4, 5, 6. And the reason being is because your efficiency at walking, your method of walking, your adaptation process to the climate, your adaptation to the intensity has now become complete. And as a result, your energy values or your energy demands are actually decreased. So with that in mind, what we need to do is in our training, we need to keep it very simple. So we need to have a base period, so we need to know that we're going to walk distance. And then what we do over a period of 8 to 12 weeks, I always insist on 3 months, and the reason being is because over that period we can actually go through what we call a periodized program. Put simply, it has a base period, so you spend 4 weeks building up the aerobic system in particular, and then it becomes a little bit more intense, it becomes a little bit more specific to what you're going to do up in Kokoda. And the next stage on that is the equipment. So if you're going to carry a backpack, you need to carry that backpack in training, because that will also adjust the intensities. It will more importantly adjust your posture potentially as well. And the other aspect of carrying a backpack is that you need to have it set up correctly. Now in the next stages we'll show you how to do that, but in your training, when you're training 4 to 5 sessions a week, it needs to keep the intensity low for the first 4 weeks. If you can keep that in mind, and that allows us to build up the periphery, allows us to build up all the arteries, the veins, the capillaries. And then the next stage is the intensity. So the intensity will produce a huge change in your heart efficiency and also your lungs. On the Kokoda Track, there are days when you're climbing up over the mountains, you will be pushed so hard. And then, as I mentioned earlier, the heat and the humidity is totally different. You might also get rains, and you might also get rivers that break their banks and they swell. And you've got all those additional challenges, not to mention the mud. So again, going back to preparation, making sure that you're doing 5 sessions a week in the early stages. One of your sessions should be a long session on the Saturday or a Sunday, so on the weekend when you potentially got more time to do so. And increasing in length of time from 2 hours to 4 hours. And that will do you really good up on the track. Then, if you don't have access to intensity, if you don't have access to mountain ranges, or if you don't have access to fire escapes, then what you need to do is you need to locate a gym. And one of the greatest ways of training intensity that's specific to the Kokoda Track is the Stairmaster. So the Stairmaster allows you to specifically involve the muscle groups that you're going to use on the Kokoda Track. Most people will turn around to me and say, but Aidan, I'm already doing a marathon in 3 hours. I'm already doing a 10Ks in 40 minutes. Does that mean some days I'll only be walking for 3 and 4 hours? Well, no, it doesn't work that way, because the Kokoda Track is so intense. So it's up like this and it's down like that. So normally those kind of people, when I tell them, well, no, you're going to be walking for 7 hours on average. And the reason being is because it's a whole new ball game. It's a whole new environment. but more importantly, the climate is totally different. You're going to go up there, and the minute you go off that plane, you're going to be faced with a wall of heat. That wall of heat's going to bring challenges in itself. You're going to go up there, and your body's going to be full of all these different inoculations because you've gone and seen the medic. And that inoculations as well, your body's still craving homeostasis, it's still looking for a sense of balance. Where does this all fit together? And that's what this picture's all about. On day one, for example, when you're climbing the first hill up into a little village called Dunegi, you may have a situation where you can't sleep. So you have sleep loss. And so that builds up on you as well. So in this period that we call the preparation period, it's important that you spend time training. Do not leave your training to the last minute, because you cannot get your fitness to a level that's required for the Kokoda Track. You'll see other people out there, and 3 and 4 weeks before they're about to go to Kokoda, they'll start training. That's not enough. It's not enough. And more importantly, it's disrespectful, I believe, to the diggers who fought up there in 1942. Spend time on your training. Spend time getting the correct information. Spend time with your equipment, getting to know your equipment and how it all fits together. Spend time selecting a pair of boots that's going to be specific to your posture. Most important, because at the end of the day, there's no point in you going into these environments and you've got the wrong pair of boots. They cause blisters, they cause all sorts of problems in the tropics. Blisters can quickly turn into a tropical ulcer, and then you get a major drama. Socks are another big part of it as well. So socks are very important, because with the incorrect socks, with wet feet, you can be prone to things like trench foot, which was a major problem in 1942 for the diggers. And to see the after effects of trench foot, which can pretty much be prevented, you need to look after your feet, you need to look after you. The only way you can do that is by training, by exercising, getting to know how and what works for you. We talk about diets, we make sure that, well, you know what, anything that you're going to use on the track, you make sure you use that in training. No point in rocking up to do the track and you've got a gel and you've got this and you get that and you got this and you've never seen it before. Because in the heat of the tropics, it can upset your stomach. It can also demand more water, so that your water requirements go through the roof as well. And you don't know this because you haven't used it in training. The other aspect, when we talk about the preparation side of it, is water cleansing. So it could be that water purification tablets could be a problem for you as well. So this is another aspect in training. You need to introduce those concepts as well. Whether you use tablets, whether you use a SteriPen, which is basically a UV light that goes through water, there's no chemicals. Whether you use a water pump, etc. There are many ways of cleaning water. Either way, you need to use that in your training. You need to expose yourself to the method that you're going to use on the Kokoda Track. Because then when you are on the track, it's not foreign. It all becomes part of this big plan. Give yourself every opportunity you can, but you need to invest time in the fitness bank. So by putting time into the fitness bank means that when it comes time to withdraw, because you spend time putting it in there, you can actually do that. It comes out. And I see this all the time. So those who spend time in the preparation period end up enjoying it more. Get to see and understand the history more, get to see and explore everything else that's up there. From a climate point of view, it's very, very humid. So close to the equator, so it's very, very warm. And each day, in particular the first 2 days, the humidity is very, very warm. It's also something that you never see here in Australia unless you're living up in Darwin, for example. And that in itself takes quite a while for the body to adapt to. So bear that in mind. Give yourself every opportunity you possibly can to be the best that you can be and get the most out of this experience.